In my last video, I talked about climate change and negotiations. In this video, I will be covering topics like primary sources, carbon dioxide necessity, fossil fuels, and many other important topics. So as always, what is the aim for this video? So in this video, we're aiming towards how to look at weak points of climate change and how to fight against climate change effectively. So before we get in, let's quickly talk about energy system. We have talked about energy system before. Energy system is exactly the same as energy balance. So in this video, we're going to turning towards energy system being effective in limiting the rise of global warming and limiting the rise of carbon dioxide. So to do that, we need our industries to limit the carbon dioxide emissions going up and greenhouse gas emissions going up. By this, they will help us a lot in fight of climate change, and they will stop burning fossil fuels. And it's just simple. We just have to convince our industries to stop burning fossil fuels, and then we're done. Next up, we have primary sources. Before jumping into the fight of climate change, we need to first look at its weak points or its primary sources. So we can say that a primary source is also a big weak point, because if we remove the primary source, then the problem won't happen at the first place. For example, if greenhouse gases emissions are the primary sources of climate change, if we remove the greenhouse gas emissions, then the climate change won't take place in the first place. So to remove the primary sources, we need weak points. And we can say that primary sources and weak points are same because they are related to the same problem. So now, how do we use these? There's always the negative side. Then how are we supposed to do? How are we supposed to manage this? And how are we supposed to do this, conclude these ways if we are too late? What if our companies can't cope with it? What if the industries and companies need to burn fossil fuels to run themselves? What if that happens? Well, there's always another way. And in this case, that way is afforestation. Afforestation is basically planting more trees, and then the trees will take more carbon dioxide in, which will help the trees to give more oxygen and not greenhouse gases outside. And because of the trees, those greenhouse gas emissions will go down gradually, which is a good thing because that will help us in the fight of climate change. Now we know different ways and weak points of climate change, but we don't really know how to implement the ways and how to eradicate the weak points. We don't know how to implement the ways. So for this, I'm going to be giving you guys step-by-step guide. First, what we need to do is to increase our awareness. We need to increase our awareness because if we increase our awareness, then a lot of more people are supporting us. And the more people who support us in the fight of climate change, the easier it is for us to fight. So, step 2. We need to convince our industries to stop burning fossil fuels. If they stop burning fossil fuels, then that will help us a lot in climate change and fight of climate change. And the last step is to convince everyone to never start burning fossil fuels again and move towards the renewable energy. If we move towards the renewable energy, then there will be no greenhouse gas emissions going up, which will help in the fight of climate change too. So the main point is that we need to convince our industries to stop burning fossil fuels. And this is pretty much it, and then these are the ways and steps you can take to minimize the effects of climate change. So let's say we're finished and we followed all of these steps. What if what will happen to us if we couldn't like totally eradicate the effects of climate change? What if we just remove it temporarily, or remove it for a period of time? And what if it comes back? Well, at this point, we come down to luck. If we luckily stay under 2 degrees Celsius global temperature rise, then we are more than likely to succeed. What I mean by succeed is to stop climate change and stop global warming from happening again. Because 2 degrees Celsius limit is the global world temperature rise limit, and if we stay under that limit or on that limit, then we won't face that much problem that will happen if we have more than 2 degrees Celsius temperature rise. If somehow unluckily we end up having more than 2 degrees Celsius rise in global temperature, then we're going to be in a really bad spot. What I mean by that is, if we are more than 2 degrees Celsius rise, then we are in huge trouble. And what I mean by that too is that we will be facing a huge mass extinction. There's almost no chance of winning at this stage, because 4 degrees Celsius rise is just way too much for humans and the nature to cope with. And if this happens, then unluckily we are probably going to face a mass extinction, which we don't want. This fight will continue from humans and climate change forever. The only solution the humans have is to control it. It's like, if you control it, then you will stay peacefully. If you don't control it and leave it, then it will become vulnerable and it will damage you a lot. So this is it for this video. In the next video, we'll be making a part 3 of this series, where we will wrap up the aim of this series and talk more about climate change and negotiations. Stay tuned for the next video. Thank you.